So good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Horenstein, and I'm the Director of Community Relations and Public Affairs for the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland. Thank you for being with us this morning. I want to first thank Matan Zamir, the Deputy Consul General from San Francisco, for making this program possible. Today, we are going to be joined by an IDF spokesperson as well as a survivor of the October 7th horrific attack by Hamas. So first off, we're going to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Michal Frankel, who's a spokesperson for the IDF. And she'll be, Michal, if you could unmute and join us. I want to first mention our community, of course, supports Israel's right to defend itself. We stand in solidarity with Israel. And Michal, I want you to know that our community has raised $1.85 million in our emergency campaign, which is going for trauma care, medical supplies, and all the critical needs that right now are so necessary for those who have been victimized by this horrific attack. We also want to mention that the Monday after the attack, we had a solidarity gathering in which we had either in person or virtually over 3,000 individuals on just a day and a half notice. So the people of Portland and the rest of Oregon are with you. We are following the news very closely. And of course, we're happy to have you in this briefing today so that you can kind of give us an up-to-date account of what's happening. So first I want to ask you just, Michal, to introduce yourself, your background, and tell us how you came to this position.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much. It's very heartwarming. Having you with us is crucial. It's not just important, it's crucial at this time. And thank you on behalf of the IDF, on behalf of Israel. And I'm speaking now formally representing the IDF Spokes Office Unit. I'm a behavioral scientist, I'm a sociologist. So I'll be happy to give you an operational update up to today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So thank you.
Okay, and so the chat function is disabled. So if you have questions, we will try to get to them later. If you have questions, just please put them in the Q&A and we'll try to get to some of those. So first off, Michal, just if you could give us an overview of where things stand. I mean, we know the airstrikes in Gaza are continuing, yet it seems that much of Hamas's terrorist infrastructure is underground. And I'm wondering if you can give us some sort of assessment as to how much of Hamas's capabilities have been diminished.
Well, I can say that the IDF has been operating inside and outside of the Gaza Strip for the past about 2 weeks, since the 7th of October. A lot of the infrastructure were damaged, but of course, not all of them. We still, as you know, have not entered in a ground invasion, and the majority of what will be there not majority, everything will be demolished. This is the IDF official target, the elimination of the Hamas terrorist jihadi organization completely. It's not another round, it's not another operation, it's a complete and utter war. I think we have opened our eyes on the 7th of October, understanding, seeing what we always said that might happen. And now that it's happened, everything has changed, and we will not tolerate this anymore. So no more infrastructure of Hamas whatsoever will be there once this war will be over.
So we knew as the war continued, and especially once a ground offensive starts, we will start to see we're already seeing what I call sort of the casualty scoreboard. You know, we start to see these casualty figures in Gaza, and we know that Hamas has a track record of inflating numbers, of claiming that almost everyone killed is a non-combatant, never a terrorist. And it seems that a lot of the Western media simply parrots those statistics without even questioning them. And we had of course, the situation with the bombing of the parking lot of the hospital, which of course they claimed was Israel's fault. We know it wasn't in the end, and we know the numbers that they reported minutes afterwards were terribly wrong. So how do you overcome this constant disinformation campaign by Hamas when you're speaking to either communities like ours or to media? It must be very frustrating.
Well, there's a double standard when it comes to Israel and when it comes to the IDF. I think that what we do is we say all the time, and I would urge you, all of the communities in the diaspora that support us, that are our family, our extended family, say that the IDF is abide to international law. The IDF, unlike Hamas, cares about human life, is not concealing innocent civilians as human shields in mosques, in hospitals, in homes, in wherever it can. That's what Hamas does. The IDF is responding to an ongoing assault against Israel. And we understand that it might seem otherwise, as Hamas shows, footage of people that seem to be damaged but are not. And what we do is we make sure that everyone knows that we are abide to international law. And as of bombing a residential house, according to international law, if a residential house is used as a ammo, ammunition depot, then it is legitimate target. And as the IDF, we do not want to harm, innocent lives. But if there is a legitimate target, and we will bomb it. Our understanding as of this time is that this is another game. This is a war, and we will do whatever we can to make sure that we are protected.
So, with the ground incursion or even with the airstrikes, how do you balance the concern about the now still well over 200 hostages that Hamas kidnapped versus trying to target these military installations and infrastructure?
Well, this is a difficult question. I want to say, first of all, that regarding the hostages, this is a primary goal of the IDF and Israel to retrieve each and every one of those hostages. This is I would say, the Jewish thing to do. Not only the Jewish, but the moral and the humane thing to do. Um, and while we are doing everything in our power, and thanks to our friends abroad, we're doing everything in our power to retrieve the hostages, we still have, at the same time, a goal, and that is to eliminate and demolish Hamas. And we will do so. So we are using, my previous position, I was head of innovation branch in the IDF. I can tell you, I'm sure you know, but we're using every new cutting edge technology we can, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's GPS, whether it's UA, everything we can to make sure that we get the high rank commanders of the Hamas. No one there is safe, from Yahya Sinwar to the lowest rank Hamas terrorist. We will get them all, but at the same time, we will do whatever we can to retrieve the hostages and not harm innocent civilians. But again, this is another war. And I want to just emphasize something you talked about. There is a war going on in air, sea, and the ground. But there's another war going on, and the war is in social media. I'm all day long on LinkedIn and TikTok, posting, whatever we can. And your voice there is important, is crucial. The voice, I would say, not just our voice, because my voice is taken for granted. Even your voice is taken for granted. But we need to make sure that other people, the non-Jewish, the non-Israeli, people out there speak and say this is immoral, this is inhumane. After it's in Israel, it might happen any other place in the world. So
yes, we agree with you, and we would add elected officials to that list that so far, thankfully, have shown very strong support. This is a painful question to have to ask. Are there still individuals who are quote unquote missing, who's God forbid, who were killed inside Israel, whose bodies have not been identified? Is that still going on? Because we had heard that it was over 100.
yes, it's still 100. I don't know if you've seen, it was on Israeli TV. There's a great effort, not just by the IDF and Israeli formal institutions, but there are initiatives in the, in Israel, such as Professor Karim Nahon and other professor in the academia, to make sure that we know, we find out what happened to each and every one of the missing people. As you say in Hebrew, כל המציל נפש אחת כאילו הציל עולם ומלואו. I'm sure everyone understood me. So there are still 100 people missing. If you want me to translate, I can. Everyone who's, if you save one soul, it's as if you've saved the whole world. So each and every person life is important, and we're doing everything we can. I can personally say that my sister lives in Kibbutz Gevim with her family. I had the worst 51 minutes of my life not knowing what happened to them. They got out. We have here, and thank you for that, a survival that will speak, that he will talk about, what he endured there. But I mean, it's just, it can comprehend what people have gone through. And we want to minimize the pain, minimize the sorrow, minimize the uncertainty. So we do whatever we can.
Yeah, we feel your pain. We actually have an Israeli couple here whose brother and nephew were kidnapped. We also had someone who went to our Portland Jewish Academy, our communal day school kindergarten, but then left Portland. But Shani Luke, who is the one who was kidnapped, and we saw that on a video. It was thought she might have been killed, but apparently she had a head injury and is in a Gaza hospital, and God knows what that's like. So we feel this pain and trauma with you.
You're so right, and I would just want to say that there are 40 countries around the world that, just like United States, have had kidnapped people, killed people. So this is, a global thing, and it's just against humanity.
Yeah. So is it possible the number of hostages is actually more than right now what's being reported because of the missing?
I can give you the exact statistics just briefly. So we've had 1,400 dead, 5,400 wounded, and that not including the post-trauma that will occur after that. And, the ongoing pain that people will suffer. We had 308 fallen soldiers, some of them I know, high rank colonels, lieutenant colonels. And that just shows you that in the IDF, the commanders go first. Unlike Hamas that conceals its commanders in Qatar and in underground, in tunnels, because they are too scared, or don't act in a different moral rule. We have had over 300,000 reservists drafted. So the Israeli spirit is at its best, and everyone wants to contribute, whether it's to make food, to donate clothes, and whatever. And we have had 220 confirmed hostages. I'm sure you've all heard about the two elderly ladies that were released yesterday. So those are two down. and we have 100 missing person. I just want to say something about the release of those two ladies, which I'm very happy about. But this is a somewhat of a psychological operation being done by Hamas, because our people are not given cookies and medicine right there. I hope they are, but I would assume, with accordance to what they did on the 7th of October, that they don't. So trying to portray themselves as if they are, hard-kinded and escorting elderly ladies out, it's just not the way they act. We saw footage of beheaded babies and women raped and everything, which I'm sure you all saw. So just not what happened. And this is a psychological, operation trying to portray Hamas as somewhat of a humane organization. And just to finish off the numbers, we have had approximately 7,000 rockets being launched to Israel at the same time this is happening. Today, Tel Aviv, in the north. And by the way, out of the 7,000, 550 were failed rockets that Hamas launched into the Gaza populations. And just like you said, saying 2 minutes after the hospital was bombed, it was an Israeli act, while it was Hamas. You know,
Do you know how many children have been kidnapped?
30,
30.
30. We have 30. Yeah.
Wow.
One of them is has had his 9th birthday yesterday. So people in Israel, flew a balloon
Wow.
for him.
Wow.
I wish it could do something, but it's just, us Israelis wanting to do something. You can go crazy not doing something.
Right.
Everyone wants to enlist or do something. So
We understand. We understand that here too, that we all want to do something to be helpful. Um,
yeah.
so much of the news coverage now, and I'm sure you're getting, if you're talking to the media, you're getting a lot of questions about the humanitarian situation in the southern part of Gaza. And one of the
Yeah.
reports that came out is that if more fuel or any fuel is not delivered to southern Gaza, there will be an absolute humanitarian catastrophe. The Israelis have said we can't allow fuel to go into the hands of Hamas. So what is Israel doing to help alleviate that situation?
Well, that's another psych operation for you. First of all, Israel has allowed a daily entrance of humanitarian aids that includes water, food, and medicine into the Gaza Strip. After the first day, we are monitoring to make sure that whatever is entered into Gaza is not taken by Hamas. Um, we are monitoring everything that is entering, fuel as well, because we know that Hamas is as it doesn't care about its population, is using it to fuel himself, to make sure that he has the means to attack us and to survive. And this is against our goal. And we will make sure that whatever enters is really going to the people that need it, the innocent people that need it.
Okay. So
And if
last,
you're wondering, this is a question I get a lot about, electricity in Gaza, what happened. I just want to remind us all that Hamas has been governing, Gaza for the past 16 years. He has had the ability to build the infrastructure that allow the Gazans, innocent population, to have electricity, to have fuel, to have water, but he has chosen to use the funds that he has been receiving from a lot of organizations in the world that, by the way, are now cutting off the funds. Uh, um, he has chosen not to use it in for their favor. And we, going back to the international law, we're not abide to provide anything to our enemies. Gaza also has a border with Egypt. Talk about cynicism. They could help them, they choose not to. So just if it's a question, you get, we get, it's something we should always remember.
Right. And we should also remember that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005 and dismantled 21 settlements. And there was an opportunity there for there perhaps to be a peaceful enclave next to Israel, but that did not happen.
Yeah. And
Yeah. So before we get
no,
to a meet, and we will come back to you, I just want, so can you tell us what's happening on the other fronts in the north and in the West Bank?
sure. Let's talk about the north. So attacks from Lebanon still continue. We have had anti-tank missiles fired at Shtula in the north. IDF struck a terrorist who attempted to launch a rocket from Lebanon. The IDF policy is to respond to each attack. Each and every attack we respond to, striking Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure. And we are evacuating calmly at our choice the population that is living there to make sure that the IDF has freedom to act, freedom of action. So we have had some riots in the Judea and Samaria. We hope it will not, escalate. But this is another opening eye. We have an open eye there. We have killed several high-rank commanders from Hamas at that area. So this is a multi-zone war going on. So this is about the northern and Judea and Samaria efforts, and we're keeping a close eye on everything. The IDF is on definitely high alert, is preparing for the next stage of this war, and it will do whatever it chooses when it's in the best interest of the IDF. And we also do not want to jeopardize our own soldiers' life, and we want to make sure that this is a once and for all thing, not another round.
Let's hope so. Okay, thank you. We'll come back to you, Michal. So I want
Sure.
to introduce Amit, Amit Musai. First of all, thank you for your courage in being with us. You were a survivor of this horrific attack on the music festival, where I believe 260 Israelis were slaughtered. And I know this is an emotional and a very traumatic time for you. So thank you for sharing with us. And I want to turn it over to you. You could introduce yourself and tell us what you have experienced.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Amit. My profession is I'm a tour guide in Israel. There is a chance that maybe some of the youngers here have been with me on a birthright trip in Israel. I'm a fan of this music style that was played in the festival. I'm 40 years old. I'm a father, married. I have 3 daughters, 10, almost 8 now, and 5 years old. Arriving at night to the music festival in Re'im, which is very close to the Gaza border. This is where I'd like to start my story. I've also prepared a presentation. It's the first time I'm showing this presentation, so I hope it would be smooth. So just as a background, this is Israel, approximately 8,500 square miles in size. You probably all know, established 1948, gained its independency from the British Mandate. And I'd like to focus on the area which relates to all the happenings. So now we are focusing on the Gaza Strip and the Gaza envelope area. Over there, we can see the Gaza Strip. I'll see if I can annotate on screen. I don't believe I can. Anyways, the Gaza Strip size is approximately 141 square miles. Population, we don't really know the real numbers. The Palestinians, the people in Gaza, and specifically Hamas, never share real numbers. They usually lie about numbers and many other things. So population we estimated 2.1 million. I want to remind everybody that the Gaza Strip was not part of Israel immediately after Israel's independence. It was occupied by Egypt and was liberated during the Six-Day War in 1967. After Israel completely withdrew from Gaza, Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, have took over the Gaza Strip to differ from the West Bank, where it's not the ruling entity. And on certain level, it's cooperating with the West Bank Palestinian Authority, literally the PA. So the Gaza Strip is basically the area by the Mediterranean Sea we see here. Although it's bordered by Israel on the most part of it, there is a shorter part which is next to Rafah, and that's the border with Egypt, where the recent humanitarian care have entered from. Moving just a bit, and we can see the Gaza envelope. So it's the territory that mostly taking most of the map now. That's the Gaza envelope, and that's usually the area mostly targeted by the Hamas. We speak of a population of approximately 70,000 in 57 different communities. The first settlements over there were actually in the 1940s. To fulfill the dream of David Ben-Gurion, the first who would become the first prime minister of Israel, to make the Negev bloom. So this area is basically a sandy area, an area that is not lush naturally, but with the Israeli and the Jewish way of thinking, we've managed to make this area prosper, specifically in agriculture. Now to focus on my story, I'm focusing on an area which is called Re'im. Re'im is a nature reserve, but also an agricultural territory, as we can see from this satellite view. At Re'im, it's basically a barren land. There are some eucalyptus trees groves, and this is approximately where the Nova Music Festival took part. That's the area. It is between a few Jewish settlements in the Gaza envelope. The closest one is Be'eri, that was severely damaged. If I remember the numbers correctly, I think a quarter of the community was completely murdered by the Hamas, to not speak about the damage to the housing. And the other closest community is Re'im, which I believe was not severely damaged, but I'm not familiar with all the numbers. I'm trying not to follow the news because it just extended the trauma that I'm experiencing. So just to give you a chance to see, this is how I know the place, okay? This is a place we take people to see the bloom of the anemones, which creates beautiful red carpets. And people come here every end of January, beginning of February to watch the anemones. There is a festival which is called the Red South, Darom Adom in Hebrew. And one of the most unfortunate thing I'm going to say possibly is that the red anemones that we see now is where this area is now it's dry still, and the red color is there, but it's not of the flowers. The next thing that I'd like to share with you is what happened on October 7th morning. So this is a video. I hope the sound is not too loud, or sound is not too important for the presentation. I'm going to fast forward. This is just the festival area. The sun had not rised yet. It's just the beginning of sunrise. This video was taken around 6:28, 6:25, something like that. We see the two dance floors, and I'm going to forward just for you to see what's happening. It's shaky because I'm dancing. Music stopped. And we hear booms. I thought, what the heck, fireworks? This kind of music festival and after the sun and rise makes no sense. And then you hear him saying Gaza, Gaza. Gaza, Gaza. That's my friend Alon. And I'm saying we see interceptions, we see rockets. And I'm saying war. Now I'm still in the adrenaline of the party. You see people are on the ground. I'm now on the ground, covering my head. Alon, my friend with the hat, is just next to me. This girl, and remember, everybody here is on a party, so alcohol and other substances. So people are not like not well focused, I would say. This girl is saying, no, what is happening? Lie down, protect your head, we are with you. Other people have no idea what is happening. Tons of rockets. You can't see all of them in the video, but there are a lot of booms in the background.
אני בהתקף לב נראה לי.
Saying I'm having
לא, הכל טוב, תעזבי את
אני
הטלפון.
צריכה למצוא את חברה שלי, אני לבד פה כבר שעתיים.
בואי, 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 בואי. שימי ראש על הרצפה.
אני מפחדת.
אין מה לפחד, תרגי.
So it's either the age difference between us and most of the participants. We are fans of the music, we are in our 40s, me and Alon, but anyway, this is another run to find a shelter. So what you should do when there are rockets, and here there was no alarm by the way, you could find something stable to base yourself by. The only stable thing, the only thing that looks like a building here are refrigerators of the bars area and the food court and those small food trucks. So this is where we find our first shelter. But the next thing that happened is that security of the party, they started to shout to people, flee out, run away, don't stay here, evacuate. And that's the next thing that I'd like to share with you. So here we're still on the ground. And then next thing that will happen,
יואו!
I'm amazed by the sound of the booms. I don't know if it's very clear on your side or not.
אבל זה לא כאלה שקרובים אלינו בכלל. זה לא קרוב אלינו.
I'm saying it's not even close to us. So the rockets, we see them flying over our heads. Some interceptions are happening directly in front of us.
מה, בוא, לאיפה?
And Alon, who is with me, and he's physically next to me right now. I don't know if you want to participate. But the next thing that happened would be our run towards our camp. So we've based a small tent and some mattresses and chairs just for the chill out area. And we decided to run to the vehicle. So we start to run for the parking lot. And that's the next, and I think the last video that I'm going to share. It's going to be very short.
זונות. תראה, 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 תראה.
I'm not going to translate everything that I say because I'm cursing the Gaza and Hamas. But everything you see in the sky, those are trails, smoke trails of the rockets that made it way to the center of Israel. So I'm also realizing at home, my wife and daughters are in a panic attack right now because that's usually what's
וגם,
happening to
אחי,
them.
תוציא את האוטו ומה...
And to locate the car, I would say it was quite easy. We found the vehicle. When I've parked the car, I made sure to park under a tree, so it would be easy to find it. Just when coming out of the festival, and it's a huge parking lot. And the next thing that happened was, I think we can call it a miracle or God intervened. I don't know, but it's a modern vehicle. It's an SUV, a four-wheel drive SUV, 2020. Starting the vehicle, nothing happens. It didn't start at all. And only later we learned that might had saved us, that the car did not ignite immediately. So we probably paused us for 5 or 10 minutes while rockets are still flying above us, exploding in front of us, mortars mostly exploding in front of us as a short range from the Gaza Strip. And the car immediately suddenly ignited. I told my friends, there was 4 of us, all of us were 40. We've entered the car. They told me, you can't drive, you're not in the right mindset. I told them, I can drive, I just need water next to me and focus. So I've made a bit off-road to just bypass all the traffic that was created from a massive amount of people that are fleeing out from rockets so far. And we've managed to leave. So I'm gonna share screen again. The red line here is the distance we had to made after coming out of this open land, this rough land area, a bit off-road. We've joined the roads here. Those are paved roads, but not asphalt. It's mostly like gravel. And we had to bypass a line of cars that were just on this intersection when the red is meeting with the yellow. There was a police here at the entrance as to secure the comers to the festival. They did not let anyone to turn west, which would lead us to a killing zone, basically, towards Be'eri. And I just told you a quarter of the community was killed over there, or any other of the settlements which are closer to the border here. Instead, we took the turn towards east, and after approximately 0.4 miles off-road, we started the drive over here. The yellow line is basically going on the road. It's a paved road. It's an asphalt modern road. And after a while, we've noticed something that we did not realize yet. So we are with the adrenaline of the party and everything, and the escape that is definitely needed, because I want to be back with my family, with my daughters. That is the only thing that I can think of. While we are calling friends of us who didn't even made it yet to the festival, they were en route, they report that they found a shelter, but while we're already en route, they told us, we are in a shelter and there are shootings, and that's the last time we've heard from them. I'll tell you their story a bit later also. So following this yellow line, that's a drive of like 8 miles long, and that led us to this location. I don't have a good footage of it, so I'm just gonna hover above it. And what we see here is basically a shed for the gas station, a building that served as a coffee place, as a restaurant, and next to it a smaller building which is a shelter. It's a concrete shelter for those type of cases, for rocket attacks. So far, we have no idea that there are terrorists that broke the fence with Gaza and made it here. En route, we saw one thing that was really weird. We saw a white GMC Savannah, that's kind of a small truck. All windows were shattered, and the truck was on the side of the road. We saw the glass on the road, but the vehicle was on the side of the road. We didn't make a full realization of it, but Alon, my friend, who you saw in the video, have said, I saw a body over there. We figured, or at least I figured, maybe a rocket hit it, maybe there was an escape from something, we don't really know. Anyway, we finished the 8 miles drive and we have arrived here. We've immediately evacuated from the car because that was the first building we saw. And the idea was to hide in the building or by the building, because this is what we're supposed to do as Israeli citizens that are encountering rockets from Gaza from time to time, too many times, unfortunately. We've parked the car here where the yellow line is meeting with the purple line, and then people already finding shelter by this building, not at the building, are shouting at us, duck and run. There is a terrorist here. While they are shouting that, we hear bullets hitting something, possibly the road, possibly the building, and we were at this building inside the kitchen of the coffee place. Other people were hiding in the shelter, and we have no idea what to do as there is a terrorist over there. Fortunately enough, there was one police officer and one armed civilian that secured this territory. And I'm not going to take you to the entire happenings over there, but you should imagine a lot of panic attacks. More people were coming. Some have escaped the festival on the same route that we did. There was a group here of people who came to make a nice Shabbat morning bicycle ride. So I think altogether in the kitchen, there were about 40 of us, plus possibly another 40 or 50 people hiding in this shelter, which should accommodate not more than 20, 25. And some people had found no shelter at all, so they were just wandering outside. Also, they could not, they were not able to stay in a closed room. We've been here for like 1.5 hours, possibly 2 hours. Sorry for this noise. 1.5 hours or 2 hours we were here, hiding, starting to receive reports about terrorists that introduced themselves into Israel, coming with huge machine guns, killing people. We start to hear evidence from people who escaped from the festival, and they told us that people were shooting at them. Terrorists had shot at them, but we never made a full realization of what happened. Almost 2 hours after, we saw one soldier with a bullet behind his knee, who was not really communicating with us, but he told us that we should not stay there. Later on came a group of trackers, which are from the Bedouin diaspora serving in the IDF. And they told us it's not safe to stay here. We should drive to Tselim. And it took us a while to make the decision what would be the best thing to do, because obviously themselves were not so sure. They told us that's the safest thing you can do, but they could not assure us anything. And now we know also we might encounter terrorists in their pickup trucks, and the danger is even more dangerous than what we've experienced so far, escaping missiles. Now, take in mind, in the entire 2 hours, still missiles and rockets are falling, and no one knows what to do. Anyways, we've entered the vehicle. We managed to pick up one more person that was there, who fled out also from the festival, and we start to follow the purple route here, which is another approximately 8.5 miles drive between beautiful fields. En route, the road was not as secure because there were a lot of mortars that hit the road and destroyed it. So we had to go between holes in the road, and eventually we arrived to Tselim, which was our safe havens for the upcoming 4 or 5 hours. We were hiding in this kibbutz who accommodated us in their dining room, and we hear more and more evidence. Although we were happy for saving our own lives and one more person who joined us en route, we were also worrying for our friends. Our friends, I'd like to share a picture perhaps of them. Our friends came in this vehicle, those pictures of the aftermath. And they told us that they are in a secure place, in a shelter. That's a rocket shelter. You have them spread around by the highways in the Gaza envelope. This can accommodate possibly 20, 25 people. But you see, there is not a locked door or anything like that. Usually there is also a window. And this is where they were hiding. Everything I'm telling you now is we learned in the aftermath many days after. I just want to show possibly a picture of them. So at this vehicle, and you can see bullet holes on the vehicle, our friends were en route to the festival. Adir was driving. My best friend. I know him since I was 14. Today I'm 40. In the recent 20 years, we've been together. We've raised our families together. He was married to Shiraz. They were almost 12 years married together. Our daughters in the same ages. My oldest daughter's 10 years old, and their oldest 10 years old. They're in the same class. We are neighbors. And the second daughter, Gili, she's 8 years old, like my daughter, almost 8. And they are also in the same classroom. The third passenger is Celine, who was their friend and also our friend, although not related as to them. Celine is the mother of Eli, 6 months old Eli, married to Ido. And while they were hiding in something like this, I don't have the picture of the place itself. I don't know how much of the place is still there. They've parked the car next to it. The car was destroyed, as you saw in the pictures. And we don't know exactly what happened, but a person that was with them inside and survived later reported, and I never read the report because I think it's too much for me to take in, learning about what happened to my friends. But he told us that the terrorists had thrown grenades inside. Come on. 8 grenades. 8 grenades have been shot inside. They've killed 3 of the people inside, the 2 ladies and 1 other person who is not related to me. Adir, my friend, had possibly survived in some way or another. He didn't have enough air to breathe. He went outside and immediately the terrorists have shot him in the head, I believe. As I told you, the details are there. I just don't want to learn the details. I think it's maybe in a later phase. I've emailed myself the news report from the evidence that survived, but I wrote the subject is one day I would be able to read it and learn about what happened to my friends. We didn't find their bodies immediately. There was a long wait, stressing hours, while I'm still overcoming my own personal trauma, escaping from my home in Holon, which is very close to Tel Aviv. I'm also in the mission to locate my friends, still hoping for, even for them to be kidnapped would be good news for us. Although we know that even the kidnappees are those who were taken hostages. The Hamas terrorists have raped them, they've abused them, even those who are still hostages. You imagine that they are not peaceful. Don't believe any picture that you see, don't believe anything. They've abused them. The 2 ladies that were released yesterday, we know that they've been abused, they've been hit, even though they are in their 80s. So we looked for some good news and that never came. I'll just finalize the story of Adir, Shiraz, and Celine, if you don't mind. The body of Adir was located, and we already knew because we found that evidence, although it was not formal. We learned that they were all killed. And then we finished the second Shiva on Shiraz because they came one after the other. We finished that yesterday. And now we are dealing with families that left behind orphans. And as Michal from the IDF, the spokesman, have said that we Israelis are trying to do something. We're trying to do something because there is, like, we try to I think the doing is helping us to overcome the trauma. Either it's a personal trauma, either it's a trauma from a second hand or third hand. It's touching each and every one of us Israelis. What I've done is trying to raise some funds for the 2 different families with certain success. And I found myself giving interviews now, giving those Zoom sessions possibly. This will help to overcome the trauma. That's it. That's my story. After being in the kibbutz in Tzelim, they gave us permission to leave after a few hours when the army finally arrived. I'm not blaming anyone, but it took a while. And we had to take a huge detour in order to go back home to Holon in the Tel Aviv district, where me and my friends and another person that we've saved, he happened to live a neighbor of mine. Yep. So that's my story. And thank you for listening.
So Amit, I mean, this was really hard to hear. I can't even imagine what you and your family have gone through. So sorry to hear all of this, but it's also important to share these stories because people need to know the brutality of this terrorist organization.
Yes.
So thank you, and I hope your family's doing okay. Michal,
Thank you very much.
If you could come back. So we did have some questions. First off, so many reservists. I know my wife and I have 2 nephews that have been called up. So many have been called up, hundreds of thousands. And the question is, it has an impact, of course, on the Israeli economy. There's no tourism right now. How long? The question was, how long can Israel sustain this massive call up?
Well, I've actually read all of the questions. I prepared some answers for all of them. So if you want, I can just go over the answers. Everyone can read the questions. But just starting with the first one, the IDF is prepared for a long time. A long time. That includes, as you said, thousands of people being drafted. Yes, it will hurt the economy, but we are fighting for our lives. It's something else, and thankfully, we have also the assistance of our great friends in the world, also economically, and but I think it's something that we're not taking under much consideration right now. The main thing is to make sure that our population is safe. I mean, this is I don't know how long it's been since you've been to Israel, but there's like a sense in the air, something in the air in Yom Kippur. Everything is silent, no one is talking. This is how it's been since the 7th of October.
Mhm.
It's something completely different, and the answer is different. So 300,000 men and women are drafted. They will continue to draft and to stay and to be there, whether it will be shifts, it will be, whatever, just to make sure we have our safety there.
So, and I don't know if
You
you
want
can
me to
answer.
go over some answers?
Well, let me, because I know there were several that were the same sort of question, and I don't know that you can answer this because you're not part of the political echelon, but obviously people want to know. Let's pray that the IDF destroys Hamas, uproots its entire terrorist infrastructure. The question, of course, is then what happens? Who takes over Gaza? What is being discussed? What sort of arrangement will be made once, if God willing, Hamas is uprooted?
Well, actually, I'm not allowed to answer about that. That's even easier for me. We're dealing right now with restoring our safety. I'm leaving it to the politicians.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm allowed to ask the question. You don't have to answer.
Yeah, you can ask whatever you want.
So
I want to answer something that really is important for me to answer, just to make sure I answer that. There was a question about the how did it happen? And I want to say that the chief of staff of the IDF said that there was a failure. I want to acknowledge that. I want to say that. I want to know that I understand it. The IDF understands it. There will be, we just mentioned 50 years, and also Amit talked about it, that it took a long time. And I also want to say that your story, I mean, I just share my deepest sympathy for what you went through. And we just mentioned 50 years for Yom Kippur War and the failures that we are investigating. I mean, we're still investigating what happened there. I'm sure it will take even more than 50 years for us to ask all the questions and get all the answers. Just want to acknowledge it's important for me to say there was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it in the IDF once safety is restored, once we get our hostages, once everything is over.
yes. So as you saw, then there are still a lot of questions about the mounting casualty toll on the Palestinian side. Do you want to comment about that? I mean, we know that Hamas prevented the evacuation of many Palestinians, that we know they use them as human shields, that they don't seem to value not just Israeli life, of course, but not even the lives of their own people. But what else can you tell us? I mean, we
well,
no one in our community wants to see non-combatant innocent civilians killed. But what can you tell us about?
Well, I want to say two things. First, I would urge you to see a video of the Green Prince. I don't know if you know who he is. He is the son of Hamas, who converted to Christianity. He grew up inside Hamas. He was supposed to be the leader of Hamas. He talks about it better than me. When you hear him say that they have no value of human lives, you can believe him, not me. And they do. They don't. I mean, they don't value human lives. There were questions like, is it true? Do they really don't care about human life? Unfortunately, they don't. So being a shaheed is considered, dying in the name, of terror is something valued by them once we value life. So this is a war of ideology. It's not just a war of the IDF against the Hamas. So yes, I'm sorry to say they do not. And now we know how much, and now the world knows how much. And it's a phrase everyone has been saying, but Hamas is ISIS. Hamas is ISIS. Hamas is the atrocities we saw are equivalent to what happened during the World War II. And there was another question about that. Are we facing World War III? This is not just to remind us all, we didn't start that. There was an unprovoked attack by a jihadist Islamic genocidal organization that started it. And we are doing exactly what the IDF initial stands for, defending our country. So we didn't choose it. But we will not tolerate this once again, never.
And no democratic country would ever tolerate this. That's for sure.
No.
So the political leadership of Hamas is living in luxury in Qatar. What happens with them? They're not in Gaza. What will Israel do about that situation?
That's a tricky question. I mean, let's say the defense organization in Israel has a lot of abilities. We will do whatever is needed to make sure that Hamas infrastructure, administration, and establishment and everything will not remain. I just can't, share specifics on what we're going to do because the enemy is listening. But this is, all efforts are in.
So lastly,
just want to say about Qatar. I don't know if you heard about it. Some of them were, some of the leaders were asked to leave Qatar. So the world who recognizes that, the sane world is in our favor. So as long as we have the support, of the same leaders in the world, and this is something I think the Jewish population around the world can help us. Just speak out, and if it's safe for you, go to demonstrations and show the world what is going on. We just had a conversation today with someone from New York. We're working on, showcasing outside of NYU what is really going on. So as long as we have the legitimacy to operate, that's in our favor, and no harsh, actions will be needed. The world will help us.
Well, you definitely have our hearts and our prayers and our support in any way that we can give it. And that will continue as long as needed. I want to thank you, Michal, for being with us. I hope we can maybe talk again sometime in the not too distant future. And Amit, again, thank you for just, it's unspeakable what has happened, and for you to have to share that and bury your friends. It's just horrible. But I know you're being courageous. I hope your family is dealing with the trauma, and we wish you all the best. So thank you for your time today. It was important. Again, I hope we can meet again soon. And Amit, we will be in touch with you about
Thank you so much.
the orphans that are being left behind.
That would be much appreciated. Any help for those families. Thank you so much. And there is so many others that we can help also.
Thank you again. And
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone for joining us.
Have a
Take
good day
care.
and bשורות טובות to everybody.
לילה טוב.